Hello, and welcome to Split Informed and Split Smart. I'm your host, Carl Roberts, and excited to be here for our show on the WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. The intention behind the intention behind Split Informed and Split Smart is to help all couples, amicable or hostile, to more easily reach positive, equitable, and peaceful agreements in their divorce. I believe that most everyone in their right mind or not, deep down wants peace, love, and equality in their post-divorce life, and that no one person should be able to deny that from the other or their children. That is the principle upon which SplitSmart was founded, a tool that helps everyone, regardless of emotional or mental state, better stay the course for peaceful and more joyous ever after. But before solving problems, you must first understand their root cause. For divorce, we know that the single difference between a good and ugly divorce is simply the presence of a bad actor. Bad actors can be one or both, man or woman, lawyer or litigant. We know that bad actors are good people who have gotten tripped up by their emotions, bad advice from friends, family, or lawyer, and often personality disorders of being a narcissist or borderline. So with all that said, my guest today is none other than Cece Shatz, founder of the Going Solo Network and several other related platforms, including being the producer of this show. Great to be with you, Cece. Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, I mean, it's exciting, and so what we're our topic today, and I should have said that earlier as well, but our topic today is feeling empowered during and after divorce. But I'm editing that topic to be also before, during, and after divorce. And,
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that, especially when you're organizing and preparing yourself for a split, right?
yeah, and everybody has their own journey, right? And so many things. We all have our own. The journey is specific to us, and so there's a lot of people who worry about divorce. Think about it just kind of internally. Maybe they tell a friend or not. Maybe they do or don't, or hopefully maybe a therapist. But they are worried about it. And so one of the first things and then there's others who just have it plopped in their lap, and then there's others who just fire off right out of the gate, and so we all have a different ways kind of getting. Our journeys are different. And then what we're doing is to, I don't know, again, how do we help people in that before, during, and after piece, or what, so that's what we're talking about, before, during, out. So it's
Well,
empowered.
Carl, I can share something just a little bit. Before you have established your app, right? Before, in the days when I actually got divorced, I was pretty much blindsided. And of course, in a relationship, generally there's one party that handles the finances, the other party handles the everyday living or whatever. That's what happened in my household. I handled the everyday, paying the normal bills, and then my ex took care of any of the extra stuff, taking care of any of the financial planning, retirement funds, what we did with the extra money that we saved, all of those kind of things. Well, little did I know, and I haven't shared this for very many people, so now we're sharing it out here with everyone. Little did I know that he had already been in the works of deciding what he was going to do, which I guess was going to be a split with me, because then I found that he had 5 bank accounts in the UK, 5 bank accounts here. He had over the years been moving our money, which we had significant amount of money. We sold a property. We made quite a lot of money on it. We sold a business. We made a lot of money on that. All of that money just got funneled all around into different places. And I had not a clue until I thought, okay, we're pretty well financially set. I was thinking, okay, we divide our assets, we divide our debts, we don't have that many debts. We'll be looking okay. Little did I know that we were so far in debt and my name got switched on everything, and that, all of our assets were gone, And so our money part of it was gone. So
Or
an
hidden.
app like yours,
Gone or hidden?
well, it's gone to me. I never got it. I never got a dime of any of our monies that we had over the years. Like all I got was the debt, and which is a whole nother story. But the reason I wanted to bring it up is that if I had had an app like yours today, I would have been able to sort it out and figure it out within a time frame that was realistic. But instead, what happened is we did subpoena after subpoena after subpoena to get the paperwork. It was just dumped in my attorney's office, boxes and boxes of boxes of just paper, just to keep us bogged down. And my attorney wasn't equipped for it. And he wasn't just going, it ran my attorney's bill up to like unbelievable, to where I even have a huge debt today because of it. And it was like enormous. So it was like I was buried in paperwork. So finally I would go in there on the weekends, and I lived 4 hours away, right? So I would go in and I would try to sit in his office and sort through the paperwork, try to figure out the various different bank accounts, some which he didn't disclose, that I found just a piece of paper with something on it that I had to go back and research. So I just think that if having an app like yours, which is why if I'm behind it, is because if I had had that, it would have been a way for me to insert the information so that it would have been a little bit more realistic. Also, it would have been caught more, that the deceiving that was happening within the environment there, and it wasn't caught. It went months and months and months down the road before we started realizing, oh, wait a minute, what's going on here? This isn't right, because we were having to get papers from you. We had to request documents from the UK and things like that. So a lot of it was delayed due to that, and due to planning ahead to do all of this. So really, I think when couples are thinking about splitting, and like you and I had this conversation beforehand, if you're thinking about things aren't good in my relationship, and should I break up? Should I start thinking about a split? Maybe an app, and you can answer this better than anyone, Carl, maybe an app like yours would be good to be able to start putting in your documentation so you have it. So then it doesn't get lost. It doesn't get misplaced, so that the other party can't say they can't find your financial records and all of this, right? Wouldn't that be a good thing?
Yeah, I mean, so again, you're one of those journeys. You're one of those different paths that people take, and so obviously, your ex had been planning this for a while, and so he had been, so he'd gotten himself organized, and he was doing all that work and then, so yeah, he was planning. And so in your particular case, and so really back to the, my purpose in life, or my purpose of the app, and why I find it is because I don't believe that any one person should be able to deny the other from peace, equality, and what was and happiness afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
There's peace, equality, and what do I got? What's my other one?
Isn't that terrible when your mind goes blank like that? And you're like, oh.
And peace, love, and equality, and they're both loved by. Yeah. So yeah, it is. So in there's two commonalities for every ugly divorce, right? Or especially litigated type divorce. I mean, everybody's lying about money. At least one of them is, and then the children are put in the middle. So if we did this, kind of stay away from the children, I mean, we can spend several shows on either of those topics. But yeah, I mean, so it's all about organization. And so certainly in a litigated divorce, the well over half the expense of that litigation is just the whole discovery gamesmanship. Mm-hmm. And so your ex, sending over boxes of documents that are, a lot of them irrelevant or just meant to confuse you. Mm-hmm. I mean, that just happens all the time. And so in the lawyers themselves just aren't, don't have the best practices. They have their own kind of case management system. They have their kind of filing system and the filing approaches, which oftentimes just kind of like Google Drive or stuff like that, and then relying upon their own organizational skills and or the paralegals' organizational skills, which may or may not be best. I mean, I know again, a buddy out here, had probably $1 million estate and no kids, and they probably spent $400,000 because, again, just on litigation, just because of kind of the bad actor on the other side of that one. And it's, again, just the whole discovery and disclosure part. So so early on, so you got to get organized one way or another. And whether that you do it, on your own, easily in a more, amicable type of environment, or later on, even in the less than amicable, you got to get organized. And that's what you were doing in that office, is you were just trying to get organized.
It was a mess. It was and it was shocking. And even, I still hunted because, and what's really funny is that my ex went on to be a forensic accountant because he was so damn good at hiding everything, right? So he went on to cure his specialty. But here's the thing. It's like, you and I know we want to talk a little bit as we move through this. We want to make sure that people understand the importance of organization and the importance of being empowered as you move forward through the divorce. So you start from the beginning, you start, and then you start becoming, the more you can be organized, the more you can visually see, in front of you, the more empowered you'll feel to be able to move forward. You feel like, how I felt is I felt like the rug was constantly being pulled out from underneath me. Constantly there was, I finally got to the point where I almost wanted to give up. I just thought, this is costing me a fortune. I'm getting nowhere. The end result is I'm still going to be divorced and I'm going to be so poor. It's going to be unbelievable. And, and he had all the power because he had all the money. He had all of he was always one step ahead of the game because he had all the preparation ahead of time. So I think to eliminate that for people today is to use an app like yours, and to be able to empower themselves and know where they stand, know financially where they stand, know where they want to fight their battles. Pick your battles that you want to fight. If something's important to you, then you should steadfast with that and resolve it and try to come to some sort of agreement on it. But when you have a clear picture in front of you, when it's laid out in front of you, then you can understand where you are financially, where you want to see your life in the future, and you could be able to start putting the steps together to make the life you want.
Organization is the key to everything. Mm-hmm. It really is the underlying key to it all. To just organization informs, organization empowers, organization allows you to make more intelligent and less emotional decisions. Organization again helps because you're organized. It helps you better identify deceit and better, better highlight that deceit. And again, so in a lot of times, just again, unfortunately, you don't necessarily have an outlier type situation, but that was not type of outlier situation, because just in the normal course of everybody lying about money and discovery and trying to figure this stuff out. Yeah, there are plenty of people who have to kind of go on to this financial forensics to try to figure things out. Mm-hmm. And that bad actor is just doing their best to muddy the water so you can't figure it out and right. Cause you problem mm-hmm. and try to. And
it's so expensive. It just runs up the bill.
Very expensive, and so the reason people want to use an app like mine, and I've still got some things I need to do to better incorporate the lawyer into my system as it is. But the reason they want to use an app like mine is to just really kind of minimize that gamesmanship of discovery of me asking you 5 times for something and you giving me something completely irrelevant or illegible 6 times. And then we got to go through the court process and motions and hearings and all that other stuff, which can all be avoided. And so I do see, when I say that no one person should be able to deny the other of, peace, love, and equality, much of that is about protecting yourself. Mm-hmm. And just by an organization, again, helps. I mean, it just informs, helps lay things out, helps you be able to know where you stand, what's outstanding, what you need, without just the going to court and filing some motion to compel, and then showing up in front of the judge and having all these 15 different, and having the judge look at you cross-eyed because, well, I asked him for it five times, I gave it to her 6 times, and the judge is kind of irritated with both.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the other thing is that you have so much paperwork, right? I mean, I remember I went into court one time with a big, huge suitcase on wheels full of paperwork because I didn't have any other place to put it. I didn't know what I was going to need. So I brought everything in. Eventually, my attorney just went, by the wayside. I mean, it was just terrible. And I remember going into the court and saying to the judge, look, who would have 5 accounts in the UK and 5 accounts in the US if they didn't have money? So we know that there's money. We know there's money, And so it was just the craziest thing. And I just think now today, when I look at it, I just think the most important thing is now we've got the technology in place, and you're going to constantly be tweaking your app. You're going to be constantly adding to it, and which is a great, wonderful thing because we want to keep on, evolving in technology as we grow. But I had nothing like that. And I tell you, if I had something like that, maybe I could have caught this before, and I could have worked it out. I mean, at the very end, I'm talking about like D-Day of the court, we found another bank account that was actually, joint with his mother. And we finally think that's where the money ended up. But by the time that happened, we tried to subpoena or tried to do a motion with the judge to see if we could have a look at that account. And it was over in the UK. And she said, she just have to draw a line in the sand. And so, and that's kind of where it ended. And it was just, it devastated my life. It devastated the projection of where my life was going to go. And even to this day, I'm still, shoveling out the crap, right? As I'm moving forward. But I just tell people that there's technology available, and your app, they're not going to use your app, find something. But I would recommend Carl, your app. And I feel it's important. So everyone, to go on, if it's the SplitSmart.com. Yeah. Yeah.
So if we're talking, okay, again, the money side, it's all about disclosures and discovery, right? And when it comes to court, it's all about disclosures and discovery. And what most people don't realize is that, courts have all these hundreds of rules to govern disclosures and discovery for their court, but they had zero ability to enforce compliance with those rules without one of the parties filing a motion. Mm-hmm. And that's the fundamental failure of our system. That is it's just where it all screws up. So what my system does, what SplitSmart does, is it does, I really created it to be kind of a dual purpose system. On the litigant and lawyer side, it's there to instill individual accountability into the process. On the court side, it becomes kind of a passive compliance enforcement system. It does this by treating every individual disclosure and discovery item as an individual inventory item. And because of that, then we're doing 3 things. We create dashboards. So we got basically an inventory count of what's outstanding, what's been accepted, what's in dispute, and so, things like that. So it's just, I mean, that gives both parties the understanding of what they need to do to kind of satisfy their obligations to the process and to the other. The other piece is opposing party audit, and just being able to, when I upload a document, then I share that document with the other side. They have the ability to give it thumbs up or thumbs down. Is it a legitimate document, or is it, you know, a football schedule for a bank statement? And just that immediate recourse of being able to say yes or no, or dispute or accept something is really a big part in what is missing out of our court system today. Then the third part is just having audit trails, knowing, you know, within the system, you know, when something was requested, how it was responded to, and each iteration of how it was responded to. It, you know, provides all the clarity that most people will need to kind of cut to the chase and, you know, and avoid that having to file a motion, having to go to hearing, because the deceit, it becomes more clear, the gamesmanship becomes more minimized, and we can, you know, kind of quit playing. I mean, so it doesn't solve all the problems, again, when you've got accounts all over the place and that are, you know, hidden and not exposed. But by you know, getting some of those other documents in line, having all the transaction records from the individual accounts that you do have access to, then you start to see, you know, money kind of coming out. You see those transactions a little bit more clearly. So then hopefully your forensics expert, you know, again, has more organization to start from to, you know, to do their investigation.
Right. And it's clear disclosure, like full, you're supposed to have full disclosure. And I'll give you an example is when we went to court. Now I'm telling you, this was a ways back. So it was before all of this stuff. And I want to make it's very clear is that, you know, my attorney did a very good job trying his darndest to, you know, rise above everything that was happening to us. But it was a bit overwhelming. And again, when you have someone that's so prepared to do, you know, things, it was very, very difficult. But I'll just share with you that just why the disclosure is so important. At the very end of our court, he brought up this account that he said was that he had put in that was pre-existing to our marriage. And so therefore he should be able to get all of the funds within that. He used it for a previous retirement fund. So when he got his payout for retirement, he rolled it over into this account, and he considered that a pre-existing. But what he didn't disclose and show to the court is that over the years that in that account had been marital funds that had been deposited into that account, which then did not make it pre-existing any longer. It was commingled, and so therefore it became marital funds. But he didn't show that. He didn't show that it was an account we had in England, and that whenever family members would send us money or for our wedding present, and, you know, various different times we put money into it, and that money was used. We kind of used it as if we traveled or whatever over there. We used that account for that travel. So that was really something that was not pre-existing, but it was something that we used together. But because he brought it at the late hour, I couldn't go back and show those kind of deposits in there showing that, oh no, this isn't pre-existing. And it stood as pre-existing. He got the whole balance of that account. And so that's why the disclosure is so vital. And if we had a system like yours, could have been entered in, then we could have showed, oh no, look at it. After the marriage, all of this money was deposited into it, but then it didn't make it pre-existing anymore.
Well, in the same sense that, you know, courts have no ability to try and enforce compliance with short of somebody filing a motion. Again, that function there is a barrier to justice. You know, you can, of course, talk about all day long access to justice, and they do it mainly from the perspective of, you know, make sure that the low income people have access. Well, that's missing so much of the point, because bad actors know this, that the problems that they can lie and deceive, but then they put the burden on you to prove the truth, and that so these bad actors, lawyer and litigants, that you're again creating these problems. And so so just organization, and the processes that we've created within SplitSmart help solve that problem.
Yeah.
And
so I don't like to.
Let me say one other thing. So that not only is the courts have no compliance enforcement ability, but the self-certification of compliance, that I've told the truth, that I'm complete and honest, it's a joke in these for bad actors. It's a joke. And I can fill out all these disclosures all day long, and I can lie through my teeth. There's no accountability for it. And then the burden is on you to prove where I'm lying. And so, self-certification, again, is something that I'm trying to address in my larger picture. But it's a joke for the bad actors. Hey, that's a barrier for you to find the truth.
Yeah. Well, it's so fortunate that we have. I mean, I went through that, and I know the second part of the show we're going to talk about how I've been able to turn my life around, move into, do the business that I'm doing now, enlightening people along the way. But the reality is, I was really in knee deep of the muck, as I was going through the divorce. But if I had something like your app, and I tell you, it would have made my life so much easier. It would have helped with the organizational of it. It would have made me feel like I could see the picture clearer rather than just see a pile of papers thrown on and I'm literally just thrown on the conference room table, and I'm having to sort through years and years of, because we were together, 18 years. So, I mean, you go through years and years of stuff, whether it was relevant or not relevant. So, I mean, I really, and I don't want to make a commercial out of this, but I do feel like whether they use your app, they use something, but to do something that creates a way to be able to be organized. And I do highly recommend your app. So,
do we need to take a break, or do we want to keep this
we
going?
do need to take a quick break. So we'll, I know it. I tend to take, because I'm the producer always, I tend to take control of everything, Carl. So I do apologize.
All right. Well, okay. Well, we're going to take a quick break.
Okay. We'll be right back. Everybody hang tight.
All right. That's a little bit shorter.
So, okay.
All right. Well, all right, Cece. So the values of, so it's not only for those high conflict situations, and obviously that's where SplitSmart was inspired from, right? So I was 9 years in high conflict litigation, several $100,000 later, and nobody wins but the lawyers type thing. And so back to the point here is, so in Colorado, as it is in most states, you got to do mediation before the hearing, and so at that point, I got the the email from my ex of her disclosures, which I could immediately see that had been altered, and that in the mediator just kind of shrugs their shoulders, saying, "I can't police that. I can't do anything about that," and they can't, because there is no compliance enforcement. I mean, my only option was to file more motions and spend more money and extend the conflict and all that other fun stuff. So anyway, that was the inspiration for SplitSmart, is to solve this problem of gamesmanship in discovery. And it does it very effectively through organization and through creating accountability, individual accountability. And then the flip side of that is being a passive compliance enforcement system for the courts. It solves organization for the high conflict, but even in low conflict for individuals that are just thinking about it. Again, often women that don't necessarily have all the understanding of what the finances are. The first step to do is start to try to figure out what your marital estate is. It's just start creating that list. And once you start creating that list, then you start putting the supporting documents to support that list. And even if you don't know everything, hey, you got some blank spots that you want to try to fill. But when by the time you start to address or discuss the divorce with your future ex, you've gained a lot of control. You first of all, you can have more control about how the process unfolds going out. If you set
right, you start to feel empowered. You start to feel, because I think as we go through divorce, none of us can ever be in control of it, because it just seems like that's just not the way it works. But at least you feel you have the knowledge, you have, you feel like you have control of putting the information there, and that you can, feel empowered with that. So, that, I think that is really crucial, to be able to walk forward after your divorce in a very positive way and be able to feel like you can move from beyond it. And so often when people experience what I've felt, it's taken them a long time to be able to, dust off the crap and try to move forward. And so what they do is they establish things like you've done, like you established the app to be able to help other people. So you've taken, your negative experience, and you've turned it and switched it to a very positive, helping people. And I think that that's so crucial.
And that's one of the things that I am kind of grateful for, is, because in dealing in this campaign to try to change the world of divorce, really am very fortunate to be working with several people like yourself who've been through it. It's surprising how many mediators, coaches, and everybody else are kind of in this business. Even some lawyers who turn change colors, so to speak. From the perspective of just trying to what am I saying? They want it to be better for everybody.
Right.
And so,
well, they realize that there is a better way out there, and they've experienced, the negative. They've experienced a lot of the emotions and a lot of the, the hurt feelings that go along with it, and a lot of the economic hardship that people do feel. And so you're even seeing attorneys now, become coaches, because they realize and they value the importance of the emotional aspect of their client, what they're going through. And so, I look back now on my life, even though, I wouldn't want to relive that for any amount of money, but I would not be the person who I am today, nor would I be on the path that I am today had I not gone through that. So there's elements of that maybe I had to withstand to be able to be who I am supposed to become. And so I often tell people things like that, because I think that, the bad experiences in our lives it's just a journey in which we have to sometimes walk through, right? Not necessarily carry on with us, but they can evolve us to a very positive an aspect, and which is why I started the Going Solo Network, is that I realized that I didn't want to be an island by myself. I didn't want to be going through this and I knew other people were going through the same difficulties. So I wanted a place where not only emotionally they could bond together and they could connect, but they can also get really great help from people that have been there, have walked the walk. They have done the diligence to heal and to get educated to be able to, help others along the way. And so we've established, you saw the commercial, it's a new site we have, Going Solo Community. And I know that you're also part of that site too. And so we have a lot of great professionals on that are willing to give of their time to help people. And it takes them from relationship loss, of whether it be, by death or by divorce, and then through that transition of really stepping into this new world of being single. And then also, if you're thinking about dating, that transition of dating, because as many of us know, and I think even Carl, you yourself experience it, is there's triggers that happen within us. And as we're moving forward, we can want it all we want, but we still have stuff that we have to deal with. And if anyone says, well, I want to date with no baggage, we all have baggage. We all have stuff. And so
you're the person saying that.
I know, absolutely. And many times I've said too, I said, well, it's not you, it's me. And I just have to kind of just have patience with me as I move through this, when you have the distrust in your life, when someone's done some of the things, that's happened in my life, I think, and in your life and in many lives out there, you can't just quickly close the door on that, but you can gently shut it and move forward and connect with other people.
Yeah, a couple of things. What I was trying to say earlier, but I didn't find the right words. But a lot of us in this space are inspired to do the work that we do because of our own journey.
Mm-hmm.
And and we know that there's a better way, and we're trying to help people avoid what we went through, right? And because we know that it's just not necessary. And the other thing, so you're part of what you said. The Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu wrote the book of joy, right? And I don't know if you're familiar with that or not, but again, part of that messaging is that there is no joy without sorrow. And you don't know true joy unless you also know sorrow. And so we all suffer in different ways. And so that is a big part about going forward after that. I think we are fortunate that we had the fortitude and the strength, although we questioned it probably many times along the journey, but that we, got out of, able to kind of transition on to our post-divorce life. It was heavy baggage for me for many years, and I had to deal with it. And so, and it persisted because we, again, had kids of, still minors. And so it is so, finding empowerment post-divorce, sometimes just easier said than done, especially the more traumatic the divorce may be.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I agree with that. My mom used to say that too. She always said that if you didn't know what you don't know what happiness is unless you've suffered. You have to know, that then you would realize what your joy is, right? As you're moving forward. So no, I totally get that. And it's not, and again, the old cliche of saying, it's not, what you experience in life, it's how it's the journey of it, right? It's how you embrace it going forward.
It's 10% of what happens to you, 90% of how you deal with it.
Yeah. And it builds character. It totally builds your character. And so, I don't want to, throw mud at my ex. Although I would have loved to have done that many, many times, but
more than mud.
Yeah. But I feel that, there was a reason I was supposed to experience this. And now that when I do my coaching and when I talk to individuals, I know there's such a relatability that I get it. I get how they feel. I get what they're doing. I understand, and I understand their needs of wanting to, of being able to move forward. And so that's very crucial. And so, with that, we've established several websites in our Going Solo Network. So if they go to goingsolonetwork.com, we can put the information up. They'll see that there's several websites there. They have our new community, Going Solo Community. We do the broadcasting on Going Solo Media. We have a really fun group, which is the Going Solo Travelers. We're starting to travel together because I decided I wanted to travel and I didn't want to travel by myself. So, and at the time I didn't have a partner. So I'm thinking like, well, what am I going to do? So I'm going to make a site called Going Solo Travelers. So, and we're having
just to kind of point out that that's just not local to Florida. That's nationwide.
No, everywhere. And that's why we made the general site. So it's goingsolotravelers.com. You can join it. It's very inexpensive. I think I'm only charging like $10 a year or something like that, something ridiculous. And so you can join it. And we're doing things like, we're just now starting to look at doing a cruise. We're a little bit apprehensive because of the COVID, but we're traveling around Florida. A group of us are getting together and traveling around, so we're having a fun time with that. And then we're going to be launching our new dating site. It's an actual dating community. It's very different than your normal swipe to the left, swipe to the right. It's a dating community where you actually can go in, meet people, do events, do stuff with them, and then you can decide on whether you want to date them or you don't want to date them. You can communicate online. You can do various different things. So it allows them a way of being able to meet without actually having like the date type of thing. So it's something different. And then I'm working together with Dr. Christopher Salute. We're going to start a whole new Going Bold network, which embraces men. And as they move forward in a positive way, because, even though things happen to me, I feel like there's so many great men out there that need the help. And I found that on the Going Solo Media, our shows, a great deal of men listen to our shows. And the reason being is because they don't want a lot of people knowing that what they're going through. And so they need a real connection. They need a real place to be able to connect. So we're going to, and that's not going to be just men, but we are going to focus on some men like Dads Going Solo and men empowerment and things like that. So, but that we are going to then broaden that out to women empowerment. So, but yeah.
Well,
so I got a lot of stuff happening.
And again, so kind of thank you for the work that you do and again, trying to help people. And so a lot of this comes from the genuine pains and sorrows that we knew. And again, it's study and introspection and everything else about how to, what we kind of went through to, better ourselves, or I don't know about better ourselves, but again, to help in the transition. And some realities that we just kind of have to kind of get a grip of. So I thank you for all that. Because again, it's just, there's so much in the pre and during process. And then that there's, again, the more difficult that process may have been, the more help you kind of need on the back end transition of that. And people need to be able to kind of find others, certainly I do recommend therapists for men, and they need to be able to kind of open up this stuff. I'm going to see a therapist this afternoon.
But I think that's great. I think that's important. The more we can do to help ourselves to feel more empowered, to feel more, and I say empowered simply because I think that when we start looking at our future and we start, really working deep as to what our situation is, the better we are. And so, so I thank you for, number one, having this show, for bringing on the good guests that you do. And I guess I'm not one of them, which is nice. And then also, for developing this app, but not just developing the app, but to know that technology changes and to constantly evolve on it and add to it, bring to it, realizing that, the face of divorce can change. It doesn't have to be the way it was. We can make it a little bit smoother. We can make it less painful. We can make it more organized. We can make it cheaper, for people, less expensive. You know,
You know,
it doesn't have to cost them their whole retirement fund or all their life savings. And it doesn't have to make them so they're paying years and years and years for debt that they've accrued on just to get divorced. It shouldn't that shouldn't be.
You know, and it should be. I mean, divorce can be cheap. I mean, it really should be no more than $1,500 for most people. But when some people get triggered, when they get caught in their emotions or the trap of the I gotta go lawyer up and I gotta fight to win, it takes that $1,500 and multiplies it by 100, 200 times. And so again, I think about organization just kind of being these guardrails, kind of to help everybody, amicable or not, just kind of stay on that straight and narrow path to a happier ever after. And it's those guardrails not only help you stay on that, but it helps kind of protect you from the other trying to fall off that path. So.
Yeah, I've often said you have to treat the divorce as a business, you know. It's hard to do that when you're emotionally into it, but you have to treat it as a business. You know, I was just thinking when you were talking, maybe what we should do is make it more expensive to get married. Because I think it only costs us like $100, right, for the guy to marry us. So I mean, other than the wedding, of course, but maybe we should make it more expensive to get married, so less expensive to get divorced.
I had somebody else on another thing that I'm doing, but said that I forgot what country they said, but that you have to work with mediators before you sign up with lawyers. I forget. I gotta go back and look. I'm doing another marketing course, but anyway.
But it's in between, and I think if we can create this awareness of relationships shifting, people shifting, our mindsets shifting as we progress, maybe they're, they understand that if they need to go to a therapist or they need a coach or someplace like they can reach out, and then maybe we can have less divorces, as we travel through. So, but thank you so much for letting me be on your show. I appreciate it.
Well, Cece, thanks for coming on, and thanks for producing this show so that I have a place to bring guests and do all this. This really works out well for me as well. So thank you very much. But we'll wrap up there. This is Carl Roberts with my guest, Cece Shatz. And I am, thanks for listening in and watching Split Informed and Split Smart. Be well, everybody.